to apply those Back Cove design philosophies, nautical sensibilities is how we kind of refer to these decision-making processes that we have when we're developing boats. You know, the shape of our bow is the shape of that it is because it serves a purpose, right?
Your decision is lower volume, higher quality, building boats for boaters.
That's exactly right.
Thank you so much for that tour of the Back Cove facility. We're here, actually, where are we?
You're in Rockland, Maine.
Rockland, Maine.
Yeah, so mid-coast Maine is the region that we refer to it as, and so we're kind of halfway up the coast, so to speak, and right on the rocky coast of Maine.
Okay, so Kevin, just for the audience, what's your role within Back Cove and Sabre?
So I'm the Vice President of Design and Product Development for Sabre and Back Cove. So effectively, I head up the design team here, and we work together with our engineering group to develop all the new models and model improvements and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, and I've got a familiar face for any Aussies or Kiwis watching, Jed Elderkin, who started the Back Cove and Sabre brands back home, and so you'd be definitely familiar if you've been to the Sydney Boat Show and pay attention to Down East style boats. So welcome, Jed, and thank you for this last 2 weeks. Actually, it's been really educational. So this conversation is going to be about what I'm learning or have learnt over the last couple of weeks, what I'm seeing you guys are doing as a company, and where it might be suitable for your boat life, because there's a clear history and culture that you have going on here, which I actually see some similarities between Maine and Australia in the way we boat and think and the way you're building, and I want to talk about that, and then I want to talk about your future in terms of the new designs and bringing what has been a traditional builder with shaft drive diesels in Back Cove and bringing it into the modern day with outboards, and how that's going to suit some of you, because I do believe it's going to be quite relevant, and it's going to bring new people who probably are already watching this channel into possibly this brand, because that's a whole nother conversation. But it all starts back at the history, which is Sabre, which is, maybe you can take over from there. Yeah,
so Sabre was really started and founded by Roger Hewson back in 1970 as a sailboat builder. And it was really his concept to, he looked at the production, the quality of the production boats that were being built at the time, production sailboats, and the quality of the custom sailboats that were being built at the time. There's just a tremendous discrepancy in quality and therefore safety and user experience of those boats. So Roger's original idea with Sabre was to start a brand that really used custom boat building techniques and attention to detail, but just tried to do it in a serial way to take advantage of economy of scale as much as possible and efficiencies in kind of serial production. So wanted as close to a custom boat quality as possible with a production built boat.
Yep.
So that's really kind of the fundamental seed that kind of our culture here, collective culture, has really grown from. And that's really what started it all. And Back Cove came around in 2003 as a result of these conversations with our dealer network and them saying, we love the Sabre brand, we love the Sabre powerboat line. What we're hearing from our customers is that they were interested in a simpler approach to boat building, a simpler approach to boat ownership, and that's really the seed for the Back Cove brand to have split off from the Sabre brand. And so that was in the early 2000s. Yeah, correct. And you came out with the Back Cove 29, which we saw many of in Sydney.
Yeah. Yeah, I come from Maine. I come from the mid-coast area, actually, and I was familiar with Sabre Yachts as a preeminent sort of semi-custom builder quality sail and powerboats. And I saw a piece in a trade journal about the new Back Cove 29, and it really resonated with me. And so I reached out to the company, and there's been a great synergy, you know, I'm passionate about the brands, and so so became a dealer, distributor for Australia and New Zealand in 2006, when the only models at that time were the 29 and 26, and we hit the ground running, and it really you know, I continue to be passionate about the boats and the people that build them. So I'm really proud to represent them in that part of the world.
Yeah, and I can see why. Yeah, we've just finished a tour of the factory, and the synergies that I guess I can start to, or the similarities I'm noticing between how boats are built around the world, I'm starting to notice a few patterns. And when I go to places, and Queensland in Australia is one of them, and Maine in America is clearly another one, where the culture is all around outdoor lifestyle, boating, and people who are experienced watermen and waterwomen working in these factories. Their attention to detail, Brian and I picked up on this in the Sabre factory last week, and we saw it again today. They are building for longevity, as opposed to building a product to meet a certain market need of the day. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with doing that. If you just want to get into boating and have a boat for a couple of years, that's fine too. I'm not here to say pick one over the other, but your decision is lower volume, higher quality, building boats for boaters, designed by boaters is what I see.
That's exactly right. I mean, of course there's a place for everybody in our community of boat building. We appreciate all of our colleagues all over the world that are involved in the very challenging task of delivering wonderful boats to folks at all different levels. We see our place as boat builders that are delivering these low volume, very high quality boats to generally experienced boaters that have kind of maybe learned what they have liked and not liked about previous boats, and now have graduated on to kind of looking to us to kind of raise the bar at what their expectations are in boat ownership. And so, but you know, speaking to the similarities maybe between here in Queensland would be, yeah, there's this duty of care, I think, that we all evolved to have as people that are familiar with boats, that we feel a responsibility to build at a quality that we would want our families to be out and putting their faith in what we're doing. And that, like you said, I think it's a part of the maritime tradition. You know, the boat builders that are working here and in Sabre at the Sabre yard, you know, they might be going home to dinner with their brother that's a lobsterman, or their father-in-law who works at Bath Iron Works,
who make Navy ships,
right,
for people watching.
And it's all part of this web that is that we feel is a very important part of our DNA in how we approach everything from the design to the build and fit out of the boats. Yeah.
So just to touch on a couple of the quality aspects that I saw today, your hulls are amazing when they come out of the mold. They're really top notch. There's no evidence of print through or some of those lines, and that's quite it's a secret process, is my understanding, or not all of it's public knowledge, but you know, that's an evidence that you're just putting in the extra effort and time and money to get that right from the start, because the alternatives are different.
Right. And it speaks to the continuity of our knowledge as boat builders. Things like details like that are appreciated by folks after maybe having boats that didn't have qualities like that, right? Yep. But it's hard earned, knowledge that's gained over years of being an enterprise that's building boats like that. And I'm sure, you know, there's a lot of very high quality builders in Australia that have earned the same knowledge over the years. And but it's that additional layer of effort on every level, from the design to the engineering to the execution by the boat building team, that is what we see as, you know, some of the equation that we're speaking to as a boat builder.
Yeah. So now Back Cove has earned their name in our country, at least, by focusing on shaft drive diesel boats, which have great seakeeping, easy to maintain, stylish, down east style. They're bloody gorgeous, but they're not over the top on the maintenance because you don't put too much timber around the place. You're very practical with how that part of the design process is. But you're moving into, and Jed and I are familiar with that style of owner because I was selling sailing boats 20 years ago, and those were the people buying your Back Coves.
Largely,
yeah. But now you're moving into high-powered, high-performance outboards. We had 1,200 horsepower on the back of that 390 we did the other day.
Yeah.
They get along at a real clip. I have a feeling I know exactly the person who's going to be attracted to that boat, but I want to hear from you first and what you're noticing and why did you move in this direction. And I also want to touch on the fact that you've specifically designed these hulls to be mated with outboards. You haven't just ripped a shaft drive hull and whacked some outboards on the back. It's completely different hydrodynamics below the waterline.
Absolutely.
And there's a reason for that. Can we touch on that?
So, well, the first part of the question, I think, of what has driven this effort to expand our product line to include outboards would be, as we spoke of, there's a lot of our customers that graduated into Back Cove's inboards that came over from sailing, and we love that that market. We feel like we're really good at it. We also started listening to a lot of folks at the docks, and they were coming up buying bigger and bigger, more capable boats. They really liked the way we approach boat building and design, but they really were familiar their entire boating life in a series of larger and larger outboard powered boats. Right? It's logical that as outboards have improved over the years and the boats to accommodate those outboards have gotten larger and more capable, that the owners are going to be looking for larger and more capable boats as a progression through their boating life, right? So we started listening very closely to those folks, and that's really what kind of spawned the outboard series, the O series as we call it, is to apply those Back Cove design philosophies, nautical sensibilities is how we kind of refer to these decision-making processes that we have when we're developing boats, and those are illustrated in things like the shape of our bow is the shape of that it is because it serves a purpose, right? And it has reserved buoyancy, and it does all of these things.
Cuts the waves nicely.
Right. It has these nautically sensible reasons for being.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to kind of take those things as an example and carry them over into the O series, because that's what these folks that we were talking to really were asking us for. And we felt like there was a place for us there. There was a place for us in that market. And it's been very, very successful. We've really enjoyed not only meeting new people that are coming into Back Cove as a result of us now having the opportunity for them to have an outboard boat, but also some of our customers that have had inboard boats or IPS boats and are looking for some of the benefits that an outboard boat might have in terms of being able to trim the engines up out of the water, having access to the propellers, being able to beach the boat. We have people that send us pictures of 390s up onto the beach, and they're brave and hardy souls, but they do it.
That's cool.
And those are just things that with an IPS boat or a straight shaft inboard boat, it's just not an option.
Yeah.
And so there's it opens up and it's another arrow in the quiver as far as we're concerned. We want to make sure that we're not missing the opportunity to build a great boat for folks that have the expectation and the want for boats that are built like the way we build them, and just because we're not offering the right drive line for there.
And so your whole profile, the underwater profile, has got some cutting action and dead rise moving aft, and then it goes to, what do we refer to that aft section?
We call that the trellis. It's just an abbreviation for a trailing edge lifting surface. So it's essentially a planing pad. it does kind of cut in from the keel forward with a waveform shape, but it translates into this lifting pad, this planing pad aft that allows us to generate lift at the back of the hull, which really helps us to manage bow rise during transition speeds.
Which we felt on Monday,
right,
on the 390.
And so it generates a little bit of lift back aft, and it also does a few other fun things for us. Is it reduces the overall height of the wake behind the boat.
Yep.
So in low wake areas and wake damage sensitivities, you can run faster. It allows you to plane at lower speeds, so after you get up and on a plane, you can back off and transit at lower speeds without wallowing and falling off of the plane. And it takes it mitigates the kind of some of the challenges with outboards. Of course, is like, they're limited to the diameter of the propellers and so on and so forth. So you don't have that nearly unlimited diameter that you have with an inboard boat. And so having that additional feature helps with all of those things to kind of, it's really fine-tuning that hull for the power that we intend to use, and that's one of the features that we designed specifically for the outboard power.
That's interesting, and we really felt that it's flat running and fast. And so where I see a new market of you guys possibly wanting to now talk to Jed in Sydney, is many of you guys who've owned your high performance center consoles or more day boat focus boats are going to see some value in this 390 and the 340. And I've got my own experience to draw upon, because I was selling high performance outboard boats for many years, and I got accustomed to cruising at 35 knots. And once you have that in your headspace, the things that you can do in your day at 35 knots are a lot more than 20 knots. So you might plan, we're going to go do some whale watching in the morning, we're going to buzz up to Pittwater, and we're going to have breakfast at this place that we like, and then we've got all afternoon. We're going to do some other stuff which we haven't thought of yet, which I wouldn't even consider doing, obviously originally when you're on your sailing boat, but then when you moved up to your shaft drive boat, where you're probably factoring in an 18 to 22 knot cruise. Is that fair?
Low 20s,
on the conditions. So when you bump that up to 30 to 35, your area of operations just doubles.
Absolutely.
And I believe that's a mindset. Let me know in the comments if you guys agree, but I believe it's a mindset that you'll struggle to step backwards from, because you're now accustomed to this speed, which is a genuine advantage.
And likewise, I would say that the opposite side of that coin is probably what you experienced in going from sail to power originally, is that that circle of range that you gain, the area within that circle is exponentially bigger, right? So the whole idea with our O series, the outboard series of models for Back Cove, was to actually, we specifically said we wanted to be able to cruise 10 knots faster. That was the goal.
Yep.
We wanted 10 knots faster cruise than we could get with the inboard diesels.
Yep.
And so that was the design point for the performance, and it really has resonated with folks.
Yeah.
And so so not only the folks that I can still go all the places that I could go with my center console, I can still do that, but now I'm bringing a much more comfortable arrangement with me.
Yeah.
The flip side of that coin is the folks that have been cruising at 22 knots now can cruise at 35 knots, and all of a sudden their eyes are opening as to what all they can do now with that boat that they couldn't do with their boat cruising at 22.
That is literally, I used to say this to my customers I'll sell a boat to back in the day. Consider your area of operations, where do you live, and draw a circle, and these are the things you can do on your weekend. And so now with the 390 and 340, that circle just got bigger.
Circle's a lot bigger.
Yeah, and it just means your activities and the things you can do, or if you've lost a bit of time because you've got to go pick up the boys from rugby or whatever, you can still get to that place you want to go.
Absolutely.
And it's that's basically the advantage.
That's it.
And relative to Sydney specifically, you know, I often try to intimate to prospective owners that you know, Sydney Harbour is a beautiful body of water.
Yeah.
But it is limited in scope to some degree, and it's as there's more boats on the water and more share boat operations that are in Sydney Harbour. The weekends are busy.
Yeah.
And
Pittwater.
the ability to go to Pittwater
100%.
effectively, comfortably, safely,
Yeah.
and is viable with the outboard series.
Yeah, because it's a 16 nautical mile run
Offshore.
from Manly to the lighthouse,
Right.
and then you've got a body of water which is probably 3 times bigger than Sydney Harbour.
Right. And it's pristine.
And it's amazing,
Yeah.
and so if you haven't explored the Pittwater Hawkesbury region by boat and you've only done Sydney Harbour, the 340 and the 390 are awesome options. You took the 340 to Queensland, I remember.
I did.
And so talking about that circle or that area of operations, that seems like the future for Back Cove. What's going to happen with the shaft drives? Because there's a lot of guys who are not going to be interested in outboards.
Yep.
I've sold many sailing yachts to them over the years, and they just want a diesel shaft drive. What's your intentions for shaft drive boats?
We love our shaft drive models. We have no intention to do anything but continue to build great inboard straight shaft single diesel powered boats for the foreseeable future.
So they're not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere. No. We're really proud of our inboard series of boats. We continue to reinvest in that product line, and we love it. We see a lot of great opportunities here in the States. There's this really aspirational trip called the Great Loop, where you can essentially encircle the entire eastern half of the United States by boat. You can do a big loop around the eastern half of the United States, and it's quite an adventure. It's something that a lot of our customers aspire to do, and it's one of the things that we keep in mind when we're developing our inboard boats, is that use profile is just it's perfect. And you talk about a couple going voyaging, really going off on an adventure, and
Makes
having
more
a
sense
boat
to do it
that
on a
is
shaft drive.
simple, has all these components on that boat are, no matter where you go on planet Earth, if somebody's familiar with working on boats and tinkering with diesel engines, you'll be able to deal with whatever arises on your adventure around. So the idea with the Back Cove inboard series is that they're very high quality components and very simply arranged and very easily serviced, and really geared towards those boaters that have a very clear sense of what their expectations are mechanically and aesthetically, and with their voyaging plans.
And from an Australian or a New Zealand perspective, it's the same. It would be heading north in the winter, Great Barrier Reef, and
we have owners that have done it. On the 37.
There you go.
A couple of them.
Yeah. So if you're trying to look at the Back Cove brand, if you're a busy working dad with only your weekends available to you, and you want to get out and enjoy that 2 to 3 days with your family, maybe consider the outboards. And if you are thinking about doing extended cruising, or you're just traditional mindset because you want shaft drive, lower maintenance, and do the oil changes yourself, then that's where the 372 or the 41 is your boat, basically.
Yeah, we are very fortunate that we have a lot of our customers that, at some periods in their boating life, one of those drive lines fits better than the others, and we have many owners that will go back and forth, and some owner might want to do some serious voyaging with their family, and they'll have a 372 or a Back Cove 41, and then once they've done their voyaging, they'll come home and get a 340 to replace it. And so we're very fortunate, and I would say that the crossover with all of our owners and their families is between Sabre and Back Cove it's pretty fluid.
Yeah.
We do see a lot of crosstalk there.
Yeah,
A lot of
and I've
others.
had that experience too. I have owners that have had both Sabre and Back Cove product in
Yeah.
Australia.
So I guess to wrap it up there, from what I observe, and thank you for taking me around this area of Maine, Jed, it's absolutely stunning. If you get an opportunity, get up here and go boating, because it's a really beautiful part of the world. But it's the culture, and that culture has permeated throughout this place into serious boaters, similar to what we have back home. And you could, if you're going to grade these boats, I would personally put this at the top, with other top manufacturers globally. Obviously, made in America is a good thing, but you guys are probably doing, some of the best work, with a longevity in mind, is the way I observe what you're doing here.
Well, definitely. I think when we think about what we're doing and where our place is in the boating world, we have a responsibility to our owners to deliver an exceptional, ownership experience. We talk a lot about the fact that owning a Sabre and owning a Back Cove should be a wonderful experience and should be a better experience than any other boat that you've owned. And the other thing that we think about is when we're building for longevity is really the life cycle of a boat. We want to be building boats that are not semi-disposable, that are not going to be in a landfill in 10 years. We want to be building boats that are of such a high quality that they're going to be worth passing on to the next generation of boaters. They're going to be worth restoring when they're vintage and long in the tooth, right?
Can we touch on that conversation we had about the future 10 to 20 years of 3D printing?
Yeah.
So this is a little bit crazy, guys. Imagine a 3D printed, either possibly one day, a whole boat 3D printed, made out of a material that has the possibility to be broken down and recycled into a whole new boat. That's actually conversations you guys are having right now.
It is conversations that I think we're certainly having. I'm hoping that more and more of the boat building industry and world will begin having. This is a very long-term program. I do think that it is very interesting for us to be able to manage the end of life side of everything that we're building, and that would be a really a wonderful goal. Is to you can imagine
amazing.
Being able to essentially have this material that you could build a boat out of that would be environmentally inert, have all these wonderful things that composites do for us, and as their appropriateness with the marine environment and all that kind of stuff. But then at the end of the life cycle of that, to be able to essentially reuse that material and print out a new boat with it, in a perfect world.
I personally think your mindset is more environmentally, and if this is important to you, friendly than electric boats. And I sold electric boats for a while, and I call them coal-powered boats, because we make our electricity by burning coal back in Australia. I don't know how you make your electricity here, but I don't see the efficiencies or the benefit with electric boats. And there's all this hoopla going on in Europe at the moment. They're really pushing it, but I would rather a quality boat that lasts decades, that you can in 30 years refit and hand to your grandkids, that's going to do the job, as opposed to something that's going to fall apart, or B, something that needs so many batteries that you could put them to much greater use to help the environment, as opposed to stick them in a boat that's only going to do 5 knots.
Yeah, certainly point very well taken. I think we are definitely keeping our ear to the ground with the advanced driveline systems, and we feel like Sabre and Back Cove are the kind of companies that if you saw us do it, you would know that it's finally ready.
Perfect. Which is great. Conservative.
But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. There's great places for electric propulsion, but there's some significant engineering and technical hurdles that we're getting over. Eventually, we'll get over. But we're focused on, again, going back to the owner's experience and what our responsibility is as a boat builder. Is that our responsibility is to kind of qualify that in really technical terms, applying all of our earned knowledge, and to make a judgment as to whether or not there's a true value to that today.
Yep.
And right now, we don't feel like today that our owners that value is there for them. But we do feel like it is our responsibility to look at these these fabrication technologies, these battery technologies, and all of that kind of stuff, and qualify them on the behalf of our owners, and our future owners.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
And end of life cycle is just a really good thing to think about, because we do see the old boats dying on swing moorings for us back home, and you're like, it's we should be thinking about this. So that's important.
You drive around and you see all these marinas that are just full of 70s and 80s sailboats that have just been up on blocks that haven't been in the water in years, and they're just sitting there. And so it's exciting. I think we're in a really interesting time in technologically. As boat builders, there's a lot of really exciting opportunities to come, and the drive lines that we're seeing today are amazing. The diesel systems that we're seeing today are incredibly clean and wonderful and very efficient
and reliable.
Which
is what we need. If you want to go places like we do back home, your Great Loop, our equivalent is going up the East Coast. We're offshore. So it's good. Reliability, strength. This is what I'm getting from all of this, and I guess we'll probably wrap it. Now it's that's the big takeaway, and seeing your childhood and seeing everything that you've grown up and around here in Maine kind of makes sense to me now, Jed, because it's the culture, the quality of the boats. The coastline is stunning. That it's just, you've got a longer boating history than we do in Australia, because there's just been more people here for longer, and it's
Navade's on the other side.
And on the navigation that's confusing. But I get it. I get why you were so passionate about bringing Back Cove and Sabre to Australia, because it works in so many respects. So thank you for showing me all of that.
So much.
We want to thank
Kevin.
We want to thank Jed. Jed has been an incredible advocate for us.
And
maybe more importantly, Jed is a wonderful advocate for his owners over in Australia, and communicating their thoughts with us. And so we've really appreciated our partnership with Jed.
No, I can vouch for Jed as well. I've known him for decades, being essentially competitors, but always friends when we were selling boats. So 100%. And so if you're looking for a high performance boat, obviously your traditional minded guys will probably already know him, but if you are perhaps coming out of something that you've seen on my channel and you see a use case for the 390 or 340, get in touch with him. I will leave a link in the description below, because I see this as being an alternative that's going to meet that high speed need for so many guys. Is this plans for a 390?
It's not.
I'm pointing at the wrong plans. Okay, anyway, we'll wrap it there. Kevin, appreciate it.
It's a real pleasure.
It's really, really good.
Nice meeting
and
you.
thank you,
Thank you,
Jed.
Dan.
Cheers.